The US markets gained for the second day in a row on Monday as investors assess the latest economic data to gauge the impact of the Trump administration's policies. The Dow closes more than 300 points higher, while the S&P 500 posts back-to-back gains as well. The two-day FOMC meeting also begins today. Stocks in the Asia-Pacific also trade higher, tracking gains on Wall Street. The GIFT Nifty is also indicating a positive start for our own markets. Crude oil prices have risen slightly after Chinese economic data buoyed hopes for higher demand. Gold prices have topped $3,000 an ounce ahead of the Fed's rate decision and uncertainty over trade tariffs and a slowing economy. Some big news in the insurance space. Allianz is set to exit the Bajaj Insurance joint venture after 24 years. Bajaj Finserv and promoter entities will acquire 26% from Allianz in Bajaj-Allianz Life and Bajaj-Allianz General Insurance for 24,180 crore rupees. The transaction will give the Bajaj Group 100% ownership in Bajaj-Allianz Life and Bajaj-Allianz General Insurance. Some big updates that you'll have to keep in mind based on all of these headlines. You're watching Power Breakfast this morning on CNBC TV 18 in the Mumbai News Center. I'm Hormuz Fatakia. Let's first take a look at how the Asian markets have started off, and they are continuing from where they left off yesterday. It's a predominantly green screen across the Asia Pacific as well. The Hang Seng continuing its outperformance for this year so far, up another 2.25%. Gains also coming in from the Taiwanese markets. They are up 0.7%. The Nikkei too trading with healthy gains in today's trading session. So is the Kospi in South Korea. The Nikkei is up 1.5%. Of course, the Bank of Japan rate decision also comes out tomorrow, so the focus will be there as well. The Kospi is up 0.5%. The Shanghai Composite in China also trading with gains of around 0.3%. But the outperformer is the Hang Seng, as has been the case for a better part of the year. So green screen across the Asia Pacific, and pull up the GIFT Nifty as well, and that the Asian screen rubbing off on the GIFT Nifty as well. 150 points gap up is what the implied open is suggesting as of now. So another positive start in the works for our own markets, but the question, of course, as has been the case, whether that gap up sustains or not. But moving to Wall Street, then another positive session on Monday, second straight day of gains. The indices making a comeback after 4 straight weeks of losses, and that is on the back of course, Donald Trump's tariff policies. The Dow Jones gained another 350 points. The S&P 500 up 0.6%. The Nasdaq was lower for a better part of the session, but recovered from those lows to end higher. So positive handover from Wall Street as well. Some key macro data that came in yesterday. Retail sales for the month of February were lower than expected at 0.2%. However, they were better than the decline of 1.2% that was seen in the previous month, but it was below the estimates of a growth of 0.6%. However, the numbers showed that retail sales grew at a solid pace despite the economic uncertainties clouding. Now, the big trigger for the next 2 days is going to be the Fed policy, and the FOMC's two-day policy meeting is going to kick off later today. And former Federal Reserve Vice Chairman Roger Ferguson said that the Federal Reserve policy is no longer going to be in the transitory phase. Listen in.
One is, as you point out, the uncertainty about the impact of tariffs. But secondly, there has been some indication that long-term inflation expectations, as measured by survey data at least, are starting to become a little bit unanchored, which would worry the Fed a great deal, because then you'd have a double whammy of prices that go up once, perhaps, from a tariff, in the face of markets that are expecting more inflation, and consequently the cycle might pick up again. I think the Fed would be very reluctant to be, in the transitory camp this time around. So my bet is they're going to be, on high alert, hoping that inflation continues to go down, but not certain. The degree of confidence around the disinflationary trends has got to have eroded somewhat in the face of all this uncertainty about both tariffs and potentially higher inflation expectations over the longer run.
Now, Yardeni Research reassessed the valuation of the S&P 500 on the back of the tariff war, and listening to what Yardeni had to say.
Absolutely, and that obviously relates to valuation. Valuation has been stretched, everybody knows that, but the outlook for the economy was pretty good until we got hit by this tariff issue, and it looks like it's not going to go away anytime soon, so surely valuations aren't going to stay as high, and they have in fact come down. For the Magnificent Seven, they're down from 30 to 25. For the S&P 500, they're down from 22 to 20. So I've adjusted for valuation. I still think the economy is going to prove to be resilient as it has been for the past 3 years. And if that's the case, then the earnings story should hold up, but the valuation story is not as strong.
Now, ahead of the Fed's two-day policy meeting, here is a new appointment to the Federal Reserve. Steve Leisman is here with the details.
President Donald Trump on his Truth Social website announcing that he will announce Michelle Mickey Bowman to be the new vice chair for supervision at the Federal Reserve, replacing Michael Barr, who had that position for several years. Bowman joined the Federal Reserve in 2018. She was the former head of the Kansas Bank Commission. She has to be nominated, is my understanding, and approved by the Senate. The question becomes, how much reform and how much deregulation does the president want in the banking system, and how much Michelle Bowman will deliver? He said regulation and banking, our economy has mismanaged for the past 4 years, and it's time for a change. Bowman had been an opponent of additional regulations that Michael Barr wanted to put on. She was joined by others on the Federal Reserve. But the question is whether or not she ends up being as much of a deregulator as the president wants. I thought she was rather conservative in the changes that she wanted, rather than wholesale reforms or deregulation. So this is interesting. She was approved by the Senate once. She'll be approved again, I would expect. But now the question becomes, how much reform to Dodd-Frank? I know the banks are looking for additional relief when it comes to supervision, as well as capital ratios. So those remain outstanding. The Fed is pretty much, as I understand it, frozen additional bank regulation during this interim period where Michael Barr announced his resignation and before a new a person is picked. And that person is Michelle Bowman, who is a Federal Reserve governor right now.
That's all we have on the global markets front, but how will all of these cues impact our own markets? Our research team joins in with the trade setup, the stocks that are likely to be in the news, and of course, the setup on the FNO side of things as well. Firstly, Vamakshi joins in to get all the market cues you need to watch out for. Vamakshi, good morning. Another gap up in store, but what are some of the important cues you're watching out for?
Well, good morning, Hormas. Nifty yesterday managed to hold on to that psychological mark of 22,500, driven by positive global cues. The gains were largely contributed by financials, which included ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, as well as the Bajaj twins. The top drags, on the other hand, included Reliance, SBI, as well as ITC. Despite the positive move that we saw yesterday, the market breadth was largely in favor of the declines. When we talk about the broader indices, the Nifty Mid-Cap Index marginally outperformed, while the Nifty Small-Cap Index performed more or less in line with the benchmark indices, up nearly 0.5%. Most sectoral indices closed in the green. The top sectoral gainers included pharma as well as the financial index. The top sectoral losers, on the other hand, included Nifty Media as well as Realty. As far as the US markets are concerned, they continue to build on to Friday's gains. All three benchmark indices closed in the green, so it's a positive handover coming in from the US markets. As far as the cues today are concerned, keep an eye out on the important meeting between Trump and Putin. They will be speaking as US pushes for a Russia-Ukraine ceasefire. RBI will be conducting OMO purchases for an aggregate amount of nearly 50,000 crores, so we'll be watching out for that as well. Important levels, the immediate hurdle is placed at 22,600 to 22,700. This coincides with the 20-day exponential moving average as well as last week's high. On the downside, the 22,250, 22,350 zone has acted as a strong support. As of now, when we look at the GIFT Nifty, it is indicating a gap up opening, but we'll have to wait by to see whether or not it sustains.
Indeed, that's the big question, right? Vamakshi, thanks a lot for that. Over to Winnie now. Let's start the stocks that you need to keep an eye out for today. Winnie, good morning. What's on your list?
Good morning. Firstly, we'll start with Bajaj Finserv. Now, Allianz is set to exit the insurance JV with Bajaj Finserv. Bajaj Finserv and the promoter companies will acquire the 26% from Allianz in Bajaj-Allianz Life as well as Bajaj-Allianz General Insurance for around 24,180 crore rupees. So keep an eye out on Bajaj Finserv. Other than that, we have Ircon International. One of its JVs has secured a letter of award of around 1,096 crore rupees, which is from the Meghalaya government. So on the back of this order win, you could see some bit of an up move. Morpin Labs, the company has launched an Epamore to offer high quality treatment to diabetes at a affordable price point. So Morpin Labs could be something that we are keeping an eye out on. Star Cement, the arm has been declared, one of its arm has been declared as a preferred bidder for composite license of a Boro limestone block in Assam. So important one there. Aditya Birla Real Estate is in focus, and we'll keep an eye out on this one after the Birla Estates has debuted in the Pune market. Now, the revenue potential for this one is 2,700 crores. It's a luxury residential project, so important there. Coffee Day Enterprises, keep an eye out on that one. They have settled some outstanding debt of around 200 crores. We could see some bit of an up move on the back of that. This is with IDBI Trusteeship Services. And IREDA, that's IREDA, that's also going to be in focus. The company will enhance its borrowing program for fiscal 2025 by 5,000 crore rupees. And lastly, Manappuram Finance also is in focus. On 20th of March, there's going to be an important board meet that will be considering some fundraising proposals, could be via issuance of securities, that could be shares, warrants, as well as debt. So on the back of that, we could see some bit of a move for Manappuram Finance.
Indeed, we'll keep an eye out on Manappuram. Vinny, thanks a lot for that list. And lastly, Sudarshan joins in with cues from the F&O space. Sudarshan, good morning. A good day yesterday, but still that familiar resistance at 22,600. What are the F&O cues indicating?
Good morning, Omar. So at least on data front from the F&O part, things are looking better. At least things have improved in the last few sessions. But talking first about yesterday's session, we saw market closing or basically holding on to the opening gains, and at the close also all the frontline indices were higher. And today also following the positive global cues, GIFT Nifty is indicating a start with a sharp gains, and it's currently up more than 150 points. On the flows front, trends have continued. FIs continue to sell while DIs have bought. FIs have sold nearly 4,500 crore while DIs have bought more than rupees 6,000 crore. But look at the data in the derivative. On the derivative, FIs have bought in the derivative futures. The buying figure was almost 1,900 crore. They have added long positions of more than 2,200 contracts. At the same time, they have reduced short positions, and reduction was almost 9,600 contracts. And with this, FI's long exposure now increased to 20%, which is highest in almost 1 month. On the option front, 22,850 call has seen addition of 46 lakh shares, and 22,800 call has seen addition of more than 43 lakh shares. On the put side, 22,500 put has seen addition of more than 53 lakh shares, and 22,300 put has seen addition of 49 lakh shares. So on the downside for Nifty for now, 22,300 remains the important support, while on the upside, 22,800 is the resistance for now. Stocks in the band, same 5 stocks, those are SAIL, BSA, Hind Copper and Manappuram. But apart from these stocks that are in band, stocks that will be in focus today, 2 stocks, majorly Bajaj Finance and Bajaj Finserv, because Allianz Group is going to exit the general insurance and life insurance businesses. And one more stock that I'll keep an eye on, that is Jio Financial Services.
Keep an eye out on all of these names. Sudarshan, thanks a lot for that. We take a short break. On the other side, as Sudarshan was just mentioning, we put the spotlight on this big deal announced last evening between the Bajaj Promoter Group companies and Allianz. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back. On to that big news in the insurance space reported last night. Allianz is set to exit the Bajaj Insurance joint ventures after 24 years. Bajaj Group's promoter group companies will sign agreements to buy Allianz's stake in Bajaj's general and life insurance entities. Yash is joining in with more details. Yash, good morning. Take us through the contours of this deal.
Well, that is correct. As you rightly pointed out, a big shake-up when it comes to the general as well as the life insurance market. Bajaj Finserv and its promoter companies will acquire the entire 26% stake which is held by Allianz SE in both the life entity, that is Bajaj-Allianz Life Insurance, as well as the general insurance entity. As far as the deal is concerned, it will give 100% ownership to Bajaj Finserv and its promoter entities in both the insurance entities, and the share purchase agreement for the same transaction was signed just yesterday. As far as the money which will go towards this transaction is concerned, Bajaj Finserv and promoter companies will pay about 13,780 crore rupees for a 26% stake in Bajaj Allianz General Insurance. Now that will value the general insurance entity at more than 53,000 crore rupees. Also, for the life insurance entity, about 10,400 crore will be paid, which will value the life insurance entity at more than 40,000 crore rupees. The deal, as per valuations, is being done at a fair valuation to what the industry valuation currently trades at. In terms of the final shareholding, after the acquisition of 26% stake in both life and general insurance entity, Bajaj Holdings and Investments, which is the listed holdings company, will acquire the majority stake out of this 26% of 19.95%. Bajaj Finserv, another listed entity, will acquire about 1.01% stake. And finally, Jamnalal Sons will acquire about 5.04% stake when it comes to, out of the 26% stake in both life and general insurance entity.
Indeed, Yash, thanks a lot for that update. We'll keep an eye out on these names, as Yash mentioned and Sudarshan also mentioned a few minutes earlier, both Bajaj Finance, Bajaj Finserv, and of course, Jio Financial Services. We take a short break. On the other side, we get you cues from the commodities market. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, as President Donald Trump's tariff policies continue to keep the equity markets on the edge, there have been significant news points and developments that need to be highlighted. And today, in our special segment, Trump Watch, The Pen wraps up the latest developments.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced on Monday that Chinese leader Xi Jinping would soon visit Washington as trade tensions continue to rise between the world's two largest economies. If the visit occurs, it will mark the first meeting between Trump and Xi since the Republican leader returns to the White House.
We had the head of China coming in to top people right underneath President Xi, and he'll be coming in the not-too-distant future. When we had India last week, we had France last week, we had a lot of people. We had Ireland, we had UK, and they come in, and I say, how's it looking? They say, oh, it looks much better.
Moving on to West Asia, President Trump has warned that any future attacks by Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels will be treated as actions taken by Iran itself. He emphasized that Iran will be held fully responsible for any assaults on the U.S. and foreign vessels in the Red Sea, signaling serious consequences for Tehran's involvement. He further escalated the pressure, suggesting retaliatory strikes against Iran if the Houthis don't cease their attacks. Taking to social media, President Trump stated that he will authorize his administration to ramp up coal power production. This move is aimed at countering China's economic advantage stemming from coal-based electricity. Turning to economic matters, Trump's top economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, has cautioned that the U.S. tariff agenda continues to create uncertainty for the global markets. Despite this, Hassett expressed optimism that the administration's upcoming reciprocal tariffs plan set for next month will bring more clarity and resolve some of the existing economic instability. Let's listen into what he had to say.
Between now and April 2nd, there'll be some uncertainty, but as April comes along, markets will see that the reciprocal trade policy makes a great deal of sense, and that for a lot of countries, they play by the rules. They're not going to be very upset at all at the way that the U.S. moves.
That's all for today's updates surrounding President Trump's actions both domestically and globally. Back to you, Hormaz.
Dia, thanks a lot for that update. Dia, Manisha Gupta now joins in with all the updates from the commodities space. Manisha, good morning. What's on your radar today?
Well, all that has been happening, and we've been hearing about in the global markets, Hormaz, that there is one thing that is unstoppable, and that clearly is the gold prices. Now, not just touching $3,000 an ounce, but holding above it at this point in time. The U.S. dollar index at a 5-month lows, and all the data that we have seen coming from U.S. has been on the weaker side, whether it is about retail sales, new home builder sentiment, New York manufacturing contracts, all of these numbers have come in on the weaker side. And to top that, OECD now has cut G20 growth forecast as well. So that clearly seems to be supporting the gold prices. We also are looking at various central bank meetings this week from U.S. to Japan to UK, and that would give you further direction as well. So while the gold prices continue to trade firm, what is also following is the metal prices. Copper, after 1.5% gains in the overnight market, is now trading near 10-month highs in U.S. The U.S. Aluminum prices also are trading near 9-month highs. We've seen strong gains come back in case of zinc as well. That one is trading high. Tin is trading at a 4-year highs. Nickel prices at near 2-year highs. So all metals, precious and base metals, have started Asia yet another on a very positive note.
Well, all that glitters is gold and possibly metals as well. Manisha, thanks a lot for that. We call time on this edition of Power Breakfast. With that update from me and the team that put this show together, thank you so much for watching. Bazaar Morning Call sets you up for the day's trade.